The Last of Us 2. A game with no small amount of controversy.
Mr. Neil Cuckman, the man who clapped Triple H's cheeks.
I'll admit, I'm a disgusting capital G gamer who has the capital G gall to say, I don't think the story was written that well. And guess what? This game is all about its story. There's long sections of walking around and characters interacting and story, which isn't a problem. Soma's gameplay is like fine to me, but it's one of the best stories I've ever experienced. But if a game is all about the story, and I know I don't like the story, why would I play it? Then Naughty Dog wagged their little tail, moseyed up to me, showed me the FPS being less dog shit than last time, and whispered the magic words in my ear. Roguelike. No Return is an optional roguelike mode for The Last of Us 2. It lets you pick a character with set starting equipment and specific upsides and downsides, then choose your path through a gauntlet of combat challenges before facing a boss. Between encounters, you can upgrade your character skills and weapons, as well as buying supplies and new equipment at a randomly generated shop. Crucially, if you die at any point in this process, the run is over.
Why?
I liked the combat in the first Last of Us game, but it felt like it was hard to get familiar with it since combat sections were so spread out and usually pretty short. I beat the first game on Survivor and it felt less like I got good at it and more like I just kind of beat my head against it. That also probably had something to do with needing to play it on a controller to cope with the FPS, but whatever. The sense of skill increasing is a lot more obvious when you're on your 30th hour of straight combat, which is the amount I've played this game as of writing this section. And now that I'm recording this, it's double that. One last thing on that, if you plan to do what I'm doing, it's best to commit early. The ability to unlock most skins for Ellie and Abby and their weapons is locked behind completing the main story. And if you download a New Game Plus save, it's going to wipe your progress on Left Behind. But if you decide to play the main story later, you'll have access to the extra modes for it, like New Game Plus and Permadeath. So there's really nothing to lose unless you don't want to mess with the developer's intentions. So what does an actual run look like? And why did I dedicate an entire video to glazing a side mode in a video game? When you start a run, you're fed one of two mission types, Assault or Hunted. Assault is what you probably think of when you think Last of Us combat. A group of enemies enters the map and starts searching for you. This is the freest mode, giving you as much time and space as you need to quietly take down enemies, loot the area meticulously, or set up rapid ambushes. Enemies are introduced in waves, and as you see them, added to a counter on the side of the screen. This means you can account for the amount of enemies fairly easily, especially if your difficulty allows for listen mode. Later in the run, Assault can start in combat instead of stealth. The more frantic and less deliberate cousin of Assault is Hunted. Instead of waves, Hunted has enemies continuously spawn and attack you. Interestingly though, you can evade the enemies and run out the clock if you want. This will hurt your score in the encounter, but it can keep a run going if you aren't feeling as confident or you're running low on materials. Of course, you can also evade just long enough to re-enter stealth and take down opponents with a brutal melee animation or a quick shiv. It also ends with a music build-up and cut to black that can make the most boring gameplay ever seem super dramatic. Another thing Left Behind does well is having meta progression between runs. After enough rounds are played, new game modes will unlock, as well as mechanics like dead drops and gambits. And because of how the story sections are cut up into maps, I saw new rooms 55 hours into this. No joke. But if you're not into major time investments, you might enjoy the new fast-acting edibles from this video's sponsor, 5CBD. And like it says on the package, I can personally say that it hit in about 10 minutes. I don't 420 blaze it like Ellie and Dina, so my tolerance is pretty low, and the 15 milligrams of THC and CBD were, let's say, noticeable. They sent me all 4 flavors, including Pineapple Express, a sativa-dominant hybrid meant for relaxation without losing your energy, Sour Diesel, shout out Big Benji, for a balanced calm and mood uplift, Super Lemon Haze, my preference since it doesn't stop me from getting things done, and Blue Dream, another sativa-dominated hybrid. That one had me feeling like I was inside of a space station listening to someone else talk whenever I spoke. I lowered my dosage after that. And for those of you 21 or older, I've got a bit of a deal for you. Use my code BUTTER25 for 25% off any flavor of the quick hits, and if they don't kick in 10 minutes, you get your money back. And don't tell them I told you, but I did a little looking around, and that code works on the chocolates and the drinks and such. So one more time, use the link in the description or pinned comment and use code BUTTER25 for 25% off. Back to the game. In Capture, you're given a fairly short time limit in the location of a safe guarded by a group of enemies. Your goal is to kill the enemies and open the safe before the time limit or get a hold of it uncontested. You don't need to be in full stealth to open it, but if you're in direct combat, you won't get access. This isn't a strict condition, however. You can take as long as you want on the enemies and miss out on the reward, or you can play more aggressively to get hold of the fairly strong rewards that are in the safe. This is one of the harder mission types, so even selecting it is a risk if you intend to go for the safe, but you can also do it full stealth if you really commit. This mode gives more pressure than the others, and I like that it shows up less since it feels like the game ramping up toward the end of a run. And the increased rewards from the safe do make it worth doing. If you get real wacky with it, there's actually an achievement for grabbing the safe without killing anyone, but you will need to take care of them if you want to progress. The goal of Holdout is to defend an ally from a swarm of infected. Fortunately, the AI here aren't too helpless so long as you don't leave them all alone when they get grabbed. This mostly functions like Hunted, but with an ally there to help you. Let's talk about the friendly AI. Criticisms from the first game definitely still apply, but since they're all adults, they do a better job in combat than Ellie used to, at least at the beginning of the last game. Allies are randomly attached to missions unless you're playing as Yara, in which case you'll always have Lev to help you. And besides them shoving you out of cover, which only happened to me twice, they only have one main problem: their status as phantoms. The issue comes from a good place. Naughty Dog doesn't want stupid AI walking into bad locations and ruining your stealth. Obviously, plan A with something like this is to make the AI really good at stealth games, possibly better than you. But that could lead to you getting separated, and let's be honest, that's really difficult. A simpler solution is just to make the AI unable to notice your companion when they're in stealth. Sure, it leads to funny situations, but it won't screw you over, and that's the important part. However, when you escape combat and hide, the game interprets that as a kind of stealth, which makes the AI stop fighting. This means that sometimes the enemy will flank on the side of your teammate, only for them to both ignore each other and result in shooting you instead. This isn't the biggest deal ever, but the final result is that you still have to watch areas covered by your ally, because they might just ignore the threats around them. This is also one of the few locations where the voice line system can fail you. When they call out enemy locations, it's usually pretty immersive. I especially like how characters actually whisper instead of quiet talking like most games in this situation.
Let's go. Okay.
The character you're playing as and the ally character usually have a short interaction after the encounter ends, and this is where it's clear that one character is pulling from a list of compliments,
Good eye.
and the other is pulling from a list of responses.
Yeah, thanks.
To be clear, these are usually good. There's just a few outliers in a normally extremely tight system. But enough about our friends. How do we interact with our enemies? Because The Last of Us is going for a survival game kind of vibe, its mechanics need to be built with the idea that you'll need to preserve ammo and other resources in combat. The reticle sway makes missing more likely than in most other games, but it's predictable enough that when you miss, it feels like your fault. The reticle gets smaller with time, rewarding shot preparation and leading to really immersive scenes. For example, here I am holding a human shield and holding enemies at gunpoint. There's a lot more going on at this point than you might think. To even get here, I could approach from stealth, I could throw a brick or bottle, or I could shoot the target in the leg. To start, I could just shoot the two guys in front of me. Lots of games allow that. But in this case, there's downsides. First of all, enemies can tell when you're aiming at them, and they will work to not easily be shot. Secondly, once you start shooting, enemies will start shooting back, and the hostage will resist more violently. With that in mind, thirdly, the hostage will eventually break out of your grasp, and as they attempt it, they will jack your aim around, making the shot more urgent on your end, and less steady on the game's end. So it is possible, but it is risky. Another option is to try to drag the enemy behind cover. From there, you'll have more things to consider. You can melee the enemy to kill them, but that takes time, so you might just shoot them in the head. Shooting was also an option in the initial situation. They might not have had time to get a shot off before you were able to get to cover. There's also the potential for dialogue this entire time. The shield might talk, the player character might talk back. The enemies might threaten you, give orders to each other, or try to reason with you. Something that a lot of reviewers around this game's release praised was the NPCs calling out the names of their friends as you kill them. To me, it's used too much and comes across as comical after a while.
Andrew! Hey, Arthur!
The brutal death sounds and horribly detailed animations already showed me these were people, and them making interesting decisions and giving orders to each other does a lot to make them feel more human. But going Andrew every third kill is a bit transparent. You know, the bad guys in this game are people too. They even have names. Yeah, I blew him open with an IED and watched his intestines cross the room. I figured he was a guy. It's an isolated complaint though. I think the interactions in general are pretty compelling. In stealth grabs especially, I find the lines fit very well whether you do a takedown or you don't.
You are empty.
And the dialogue isn't just for flavor. It's a rare good detail to have an enemy notice voice lines get interrupted. But I've actually had back and forths account for my actions. Here's an example. NPC 1 asks a question to NPC 2. I intentionally wait until they're done so that I don't tip off NPC 2. When NPC 2 answers the question, they don't get a response and they check in with NPC 1. Then they turn to see me and detect me.
What you got?
Got nothing.
Not a word.
Alex?
Metal Gear Solid 5 is the only game I've ever seen that had that level of interaction in this situation. That is incredible detail. On the topic of more gameplay affecting stuff, there's also some really unique stuff, like melee enemies backing out of a charge if you point a gun at them from far enough away. This is something I haven't seen in many games, and it's a really cool way to make the enemies feel more believable. They'll react to you trying to shoot after your weapon runs dry,
Take her, she's empty!
and they'll encourage each other to rush you. Especially when I'm playing without listen mode, I find myself needing to watch my back constantly, because the enemies will flank your ass and pinch you in places you don't want pinched. Mechanics aside, this game's focus on its theme may have been its downfall writing-wise, but in combat, it delivers something few games do at its level. Simple things are done extremely well. Chunks of meat fly off of enemy heads better than Max Payne 3. Death sounds range from disgusting gurgles to genuine screams. Enemies are pistol whipped, get their throats ripped open, and get their kidneys shanked. All matter of bombs erupt with impact and dust that video game explosives usually fail to deliver. Heads get slammed into walls, get kicked into the ground, and get fed to clickers. The cycle of violence may be bad or whatever, but fuck is it fun to watch.
Right here! God damn it!
And all of that applies to you. The animations and voice lines for the main characters dying have the horrifying quality of the new Tomb Raider games. And they pair well with the disappointment of losing your run that was going so well. I highly recommend disabling hit markers once you feel comfortable with the mechanics, because it gets in the way of the gore, and honestly, the feedback is so great in this game that you don't need them at all. If we're going to be hitting back, we're going to need equipment. So how do we get it? After each encounter, you'll get parts for weapon upgrades, medication for skill unlocks, and currency for use at the shop. Each character starts with one skill tree and can unlock more trees from dead drops and as rewards for certain encounters. Some of these can shape your run, like with upgrades that allow crafting certain items like mines, upgrading stun bombs into smoke bombs, and some give new abilities in combat, like the ability to chain melee finishers into a second free melee finisher. Shock and awe, how I've missed you. But wait, dead drops? What are those? On some maps, you'll find a mailbox that will call for some item. It only asks for items you'll either have or have the ability to craft. Sometimes it's an easy call, like a stun bomb, and sometimes it'll ask for 2 medkits when that's all you have. Because the rewards are so good, either a weapon or a skill unlock, it's almost always worth doing these, but there have been times where I need the thing they want more than I need the reward. Similar to dead drops are gambits. These challenges will pop up on screen and ask you to accomplish a specific task during the encounter. These aren't as important as dead drops, but they're usually not too hard. Get 2 melee kills, shoot one of your human shields, get 3 kills while prone. It just adds a bit of dynamism and gets you to do something you wouldn't otherwise do, which is good in a game like this. However, if you play as Marlene, you'll get what's called all or nothing gambits. Her reward for doing them is double and can be upgraded to triple, but if you fail to do the gambit, you don't receive anything for the encounter. To get a better picture of how this game plays, let's go through a daily run. Daily runs are seeded runs of the game that mandate a certain character with the same condition for all players, with a leaderboard at the end. I start as Jesse, who gets more currency and upgrades focused on crafting bombs and silencers. First draft of the plan is full Kaczynski mode, craft IEDs and pipe bombs and get to chucking. We'll see though. I start with Hunted against Infected, and immediately I dump my pipe bomb for the dead drop. I hope this reward is worth it and doesn't doom me in the first 5 seconds of the run. I don't start with much ammo, so I try to preserve it all as best I can, but I do miss a few shots. One more runner, and there's my last shot. It's a mad dash now, as I run around looking for anything to defend myself with. A bottle, nice. And a crate that spawns between waves. If I'm quick, I can... Fuck. I get him off.
Pause.
Bottle. Finisher. Dodge my way out and try to get my mag loaded. These shots will have to count. Fuck. After a scrappy brawl, I decide it's time to run. Time ticks down. Well, that was a rough start. What did I get in return for my precious pipe bomb? A flamethrower. You can tell by the gold icon that the game thinks this is a great reward. I don't ever buy the flamethrower. I find it pretty inconsistent. I'll just save it for my infected rounds, whatever. On the other hand, the shop contains my GOAT, the semi-auto rifle. This thing is a killing machine, and I'm glad to have it. The next run is either a capture against the Rattlers, a tough enemy faction, or an unknown mission. But if I do the unknown, the mission after that is a capture against the Rattlers anyway, so let's just run it. The money will help the rest of the run anyway. I get to jump on them and realize I can craft some pipe bombs. Keep in mind, if I wasn't playing as Jesse, I wouldn't have started with this ability. Line the bomb up with 2 enemies and time the detonation with a headshot. 3 enemies down in 1 shot. Next guy's got a helmet. Aim for the leg. Human shield, shoot the next guy. I miss a shot, helmet blocks 2 more. Luckily, Joel's got my back and finishes him. Putting these two encounters side by side really shows how quickly you can go from the back foot to running the show if you play your gear and position well. Let's see if I can keep it up. Because I selected that mission, I unlocked the Vigilance skill tree, which upgrades listen mode, but I'm not interested. I pump my points into the Gorilla tree and get more, stronger pipe bombs for my materials. Time to let the mad bombing begin. Out of habit, I buy the trap recipe. This was a bad call considering it has strong ingredient overlap with pipe bombs, so I won't really be needing them. You hear that? I won't be needing the traps!
Foreshadowing.
Some semi-auto ammo and medkits, my trusty rifle gets a scope, and it's time to go. Next is Hunted in the School. This map can get pretty frantic. Let's see how we do. The dead drop wants my only bomb again. Damn it, man. I bottle distract and stealth kill one. I try to hide, but I'm about to get spotted, so I open up. A messy kill after, but I'm feeling confident. Line up a shot deep and miss. Fuck, I missed the guy flanking on the right. I don't miss him now. Now on my left, I'm in a kill box. I take care of both sides and try to push up. Let's use that flamethrower while the quarters are tight. I do go a bit ham with it, but you'll notice a lot of these guys are putting themselves out. This guy lights me up with a revolver. I'm barely holding on now. I hit him once to stun and dodge out of the fight. I need cover now. I dive behind something, but there's someone charging me. If I miss this shot, I die. He's stunned. Miss! He's dead. Time. That was close. What do I get in return? Crossbow. I was thinking more Rick than Daryl, but thanks, I guess. Buy some more ammo, and if I can't get the damn materials, I'll just buy the stupid bombs. New mag for the rifle, and time for another. Capture, but with a mod. Mods modify the encounter in one of many ways. Sometimes they make headshots slow time, sometimes they make you drop your ammo when you reload, sometimes they make the enemies invisible, and sometimes they mirror the game. In this case, the enemies have more health, but these are still humans and they aren't rattlers, so headshots should still do the trick. And with the increase in reward from playing as Jesse, plus the negative mod, this job should pay out. If I was paying attention, I would have noticed that the other mission had my favorite skill tree, Unstoppable, but I'll just have to live with it. If I had to describe this mission in 2 words, it would be skill issue, or maybe don't peek. I basically continue to stick my head out and get shot while missing my shots repeatedly. I did get a kill with my bombs though, and managed to scrape by. The shop had the hunting pistol and the upgraded double barrel, so I quickly upgraded damage to the hand cannon and got back to work. First wave starts in combat. Fine, I can play that game. Then I get rushed, so I take out his knee and grab him as a shield. The first miss is worrying, but then I lock in. Snap the guy's neck before he gets away, and there's one more. Punishment for shooting me is your torso. Sorry, pal. Loot the chest and try to craft a pipe bomb. Still no dice. Guess I'll make a trap instead. This single decision would be the most important one in the entire run. I didn't quite learn my lesson about peeking, so by the end of the wave, I was down to my last bit of health. And the last bit of my enemies. Yes, the enemies were The Last of Us 2. Remastered. Finally learning my lesson, I knew I couldn't peek and get shot again, so I waited for him to close the gap and went in for a melee. Nice. Between rounds, I scramble for materials to craft a medkit. I don't find those, but I do find a medkit. Alright, time to focus. Ow! He's down and I missed the next one. Unfortunately, the punishment for me missing with a shotgun is you not having an arm. And one more. After this, I make a lot of mistakes. Bad positioning, bad aiming, and I find myself here. One man with a baton and another with a shotgun. I missed the shotgun twice, and now if the stick or the gun hits me, I die. Dodge. Headshot. Dodge. Miss. Leg. And fuck you. Still not my best, but we're on to the finale. Shop has nothing I need, so I re-roll and fill up on medkits. I actually use one so I can buy another one. Final upgrade for my baby and another for the hostage popper. And the time has come. I assess the situation. They're already close, so I'll drop a mine, then hit the nearby enemies with the flamethrower and break contact. The bomb will hit them then, and I'll start off on a better foot. The dog handler starts moving toward me. Guess planning time is over. I know it's messed up to use a flamethrower against a dog, but I didn't buy the damn thing. I light them up, but I either didn't fire enough, or the rattlers have fireproof dogs, because that dog kept coming and... And unfortunately, little Jesse Kaczynski put his IED in the wrong garden, and that's why I placed 440th on the leaderboard that day. The next day I got 106 with my first completed daily run, so fuck you. With Hitman Freelancer, the increase in randomizers for games, my videos on permadeath and LS Red, and now this? I'm starting to think there's no such thing as a game that isn't massively improved by having a roguelike mode. They're a perfect way to add replayability to any game with a decent gameplay loop, and I think they serve games that lack replayability the most. The Last of Us Part 1 had New Game Plus, and the second game has permadeath, which you know I love. But any game with forced walking sections is going to be a rough candidate for permadeath and for replaying in general. There are plenty of games with stories I love that I don't want to watch every cutscene for every time. Love you, Assassin's Creed 2. The Last of Us 2 has a reputation. I think its honest haters are often mischaracterized, but that doesn't mean some of them aren't way too aggressive. What I can tell you with certainty is that regardless of its story quality, it is a game worth your time. But is it worth your money? I'll tell you this. I have 16 hours in The Last of Us Part 1. Before I was heavily focusing on getting clips, I had 40 in The Last of Us 2. It might be worth waiting for a sale if you're not convinced, but the quality on offer in its mechanics, environments, AI, and animations are on a level you need to be AAA to achieve. You may have noticed significant censorship in the visuals in this video. If you'd like to see the version with all the blood and gore it was meant to have, consider signing up on Patreon or joining my channel with a YouTube membership. Members and patrons get sponsor-free early access to videos, custom rules on my Discord, and access to view my Google Drive, so you can see scripts for videos I make and don't make. Special thanks to Cookie, Amanda Lick, Sapast, Robert Lucas, Spittoon, Mariano Rebufo, Days Canadian, Sea Trouble, and my first ever ridiculous number 55 lobster and crab, Hayden. I appreciate you all for watching, and as always, subscribe to my fucking YouTube channel.